our class, Module 14 and Module 15 of our cybersecurity class. I want to encourage you to continue your tests and your assessments so that by the time we are done, you would have just got the exam to take. Just to remind you to take on your attendance after the class. Okay. Now, Module 14 is talking about the common threats and attacks. The common threats and attack. And the first one we are going to be looking at among the common threats is the malware. Now, we're going to be talking about wares. Now, this mal has to do with the word malicious. All right. When when we're talking about wares, we have like softwares, we have like hardwares. All the wares are the part that makes up the computer. So this one, we're talking about the softwares, the soft version of the wares. So the mal has to do with someone that is malicious. Malicious means that someone with a negative intention. All right. So when we're saying types of malware, we're talking about different kind of codes or softwares that are designed to damage, to disrupt, to steal, or to inflict some other bad or illegitimate action on data, all right, or on host or network, as the case may be. So the three most common types of malware that we know, we have the virus, we have the worm, and we have the Trojan. Okay. Now, we are going to be looking at each one of this. Now, a virus is a type of malware that spreads by inserting a copy of itself into another program. Okay, so it got its name from the human virus, especially the mode at which it spreads. Okay, so the viruses spreads itself by inserting itself into another program. So after the program is run, viruses spreads from one computer to another, thus infecting other viruses. So if you have applications installed on your computer, once a virus is infected on the system, it finds its way into a particular application or a particular program. And so as much as it spreads onto other systems or on the network and things like that, its target is to run on other applications. So a simple virus may install itself first, line of code, in an executable file. Okay, so an executable file is the file that runs programs, that executes programs or commands. So viruses can be harmless for those that display a picture on a screen, or they can be destructive. They can also modify or delete files on your hard drive. So it all depends. The virus actually depends on the code which the threat actor decides to write. So they all have different, how do I put it? They all have different functions. Okay, so most viruses spread by USB, memory, drives, CDs, DVDs, network shares, emails, and stuff like that. Now, most of us are key players when it comes to cybersecurity. Now, how you orientate your staff or your colleagues or your friends about cybersecurity, this is one of the things. Okay. Now, you have a flash drive, and then you go to a cyber cafe, you copy a files, then you just come and then insert it in your system. There's a problem because you might have infected the flash drive from the cyber cafe, and then you are putting on your system without scanning. That's a problem. Okay, so any device that you are putting on your system, so far you have exposed it to viral infection from any other device, it is important that you scan it, okay, with a license updated antivirus. So flash drives and USB is one of the modes that it enters. CDs and DVDs is another mode when you copy files to CDs, DVDs, and you write them or you burn them. Okay, network shares, when you have a folder on a particular system and you share it on the network where other people on the network are able to access that folder. Okay, that's a problem. Emails also, you know, when you open emails from senders you are not sure of, okay, or somebody decides to send you a particular virus but tagging it with a different file without you knowing. So that's basically a virus. So it got its name because of the mode of transmission and then the target of how it goes about. The next one is the Trojan horse. Okay, the Trojan horse actually got its name especially on how the story of how the city of Troy was destroyed. Okay, now there was a war and between two cities or two nations, and it was a very big war. The city of Troy was well fortified in such a way that they built walls. Their walls were tall and big and impenetrable. So the enemy made every effort in order to gain access into that city. Unfortunately, they couldn't. So they devised a means, and they claim that they have come to make peace. They claim they have come to make peace. So because they have come to make peace, they now build a very big wooden horse. Now, this big wooden horse, they claim that it's a gift, a symbol of peace and gift to the city of Troy. So when they brought the wooden horse, then the city of Troy now opened their gates and welcomed the enemy into their walls. So there was merriment, they were having merriment, and the soldiers drank and slept. Now, inside this wooden horse were the enemy soldiers. So late in the night, when the soldiers were drunk, the enemy soldiers came out of the horse and took over the city. That was how the city was destroyed. Now, this particular malware is a software that appears to be legitimate, okay? But it contains what? Malicious code, which exploits the privilege of the user that runs it. So sometimes somebody sends you an attachment that looks something juicy or beautiful, okay, or you are visiting a particular website and you are seeing something that looks beautiful or good, but inside it, within it, is something bad, is a malicious code that can cause you damage. So the idea of the Trojan horse is to deceive you, okay? They deceive you using games, online games. You download using softwares. You are downloading softwares using music. You are downloading music, downloading movies, or maybe you go to pornographic sites and things like that. So you see something and then you download it into your system, not knowing that within that particular code, is the malicious application. So users are commonly tricked into loading and executing the Trojan horse on their systems, all right, because you really don't know it's a Trojan. So you click it, you install it thinking it's a software, thinking it's a game, thinking it's a movie and things like that. So it can cause immediate damage, provide remote access to your system, or access through a backdoor, okay? So that whoever it is that wrote that Trojan would be able to gain access to your system and cause mayhem anytime the threat activists are wanted. Now, they're usually custom written with a specific target. All right, they usually have a target that they want to hit. So Trojan horses are usually classified according to the damage that they cause or the manner in which they breach the system. All right, some of them destroy, some of them enable remote administration, some of them transmit password. Okay, so the threat actor that actually designed this Trojan horse has his or her goal or aim. If it is to destroy a network or a server or a machine or something like that, or maybe to create a remote access or transmit passwords. So there are different types of Trojan horses. We have the remote access Trojan horse, and that enables unauthorized remote access, okay? We have the data sending Trojan horse, and that provides the threat actor with sensitive data such as what? Passwords, okay? Then we have the destructive Trojan horse, which corrupts or deletes files on your system or on the server or things like that. Then we have the proxy Trojan horse, and usually it uses the victim's computer as a source device to launch an attack and perform other illegal activities. And why it uses this is so that it should not be traced. Okay, even if it's traced to somebody else. We have the FTP Trojan that enables unauthorized file transfer services on end devices. We also have the security software disabler, okay, and that stops antivirus programs or firewalls from functioning on your system. All right, we also have the denial of service, or which is the DOS Trojan, which slows or halts network activity. All right, then we also have the keylogger, right, actively attempts to steal confidential information, such as credit card numbers or keystrokes that you enter from the web. So all these are the different types of Trojans, and they vary because of the threat actor. Whoever designed it has his own plan. Now the third one we're looking is the worm. We have looked at viruses, we have looked at Trojan horse, now the worm. Now, computer worms are similar to viruses because they replicate themselves by independently exploiting vulnerabilities in the network. Okay, so you see the viruses, they execute amongst itself, and then what they also do is they replicate and attach themselves to softwares and execute programs, executed softwares or executed files. All right, now worm is similar to that because they are mostly on a network. Okay, the worms, the target network and the way they spread. You know, what they do is that they slow down the network as they spread from system to system. Okay, so if a worm is infected on a particular machine and that machine is on a particular network, within a very short time, it spreads itself like wildfire. So they can actually run without a host program. So however the host is infected, the worm spread rapidly over the network. All right. So in 2001, the code red worm was initially infected 658 servers. I'm telling you, within just 19 hours, within 19 hours, the worm has infected 300,000 servers globally. So this is how it spreads. The initial infection of the SQL slammer worm is known as the worm that ate the internet. All right, so the SQL slammer was a particular worm that was well noted. It was like a denial of service DOS attack that exploited a buffer overflow bug in Microsoft server. The number of infected servers doubled the size every 8.5 seconds. So the infected servers did not have the updated patch that was released 6 months earlier. That was why this happened. Hence, it is essential for organizations to implement a security policy requiring updates and patches to be applied in timely fashion, because you wouldn't know when the worm will come or how it's going to come. All right. So we have three components of a worm. It has what they call the enabling vulnerability. We have the propagation mechanism. That's how it spreads. Then we have the payload. That is actually the code itself, the problem itself. So the enabling vulnerability, a worm installs itself using an exploit mechanism. You know, when we talked about exploit earlier on, last class, we're looking at the fact that they're looking at a weakness within your network or a weakness within your system that a threat actor can exploit. So such as email attachments, executable file, or even a Trojan horse on a vulnerable system. Okay, so the propagation mechanism is after gaining access to that device, that is the vulnerability, the worm begins to replicate itself and locate new target. And this new target it locates is through the network. All right, so any malicious codes that result in some action is a payload, because if it replicates itself within a particular system, then the payload is like the actual code that does the, 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 the malicious action that the threat actor has designed it to do. So most often, this is used to create like a backdoor to allow the threat actor to gain access to this infected host, and sometimes to create a DOS attack. So worms are like self-contained programs that attack a system to exploit a known vulnerability. All right, so you see, this known vulnerability is very, very important. That is usually the source. It's like your weakness, the weakness in your network, the weakness in your system and things like that. Okay, so upon successful exploitation, the worm copies itself from the attacking host to newly exploited system, and the cycle begins again and again and again. All right, so we have like propagate for 19 days. That's what it has been designed. Then it launches a DOS attacks the next 7 days. Then it stops and go dormant for a few days. You think that it is gone, and then it repeats the cycle again, and then goes round and round. Okay, so another common threat attack is the ransomware. All right, now it's a malware because whoever does this ransomware has designed it to hijack your network or your system or your server and denies you access, you know, to the infected computer. It locks your data, it locks your record, it locks your files, You know, sometimes even locks the system at or and then leaves a note for you, you know, that you should be able to pay. You need to pay in order to gain access to your system. All right. So usually the ransomware frequently uses an encryption algorithm to encrypt system files and data. So emails and malicious advertisements, you know, usually are ways that this ransomware can gain access to your system. Social engineering is another way that it can be used. All right. Social engineering meaning that somebody pretending to be a security technician, and then deceiving you in providing vital information about your system or about your network, okay? Either to put down your website or stuff like that, right? So there are other malicious softwares that are designed to cause mayhem to your network. All right. One of also is the scareware, you know, and this includes scam softwares which uses social engineering to shock or induce anxiety by creating the perception of a threat. Okay, so it generally directed at unsuspecting user and attempts to persuade the user to infect a computer by taking action to address bogus threat. You know, somebody now sends you a message and tells you that we have discovered a vulnerability in your system. Your system has been hacked, or your network has been hacked, or this and this and this. And so in order to prevent further damage, or in order to stop the hacking or whatever, they would ask you to do certain things. Now, that action that you are doing, that is actually the scareware, because they are trying to use your action in order to gain access to your network or to your system. Now, we also have phishing. Now, phishing is attempts to convince people to give information, very important information, like your PIN number, your ATM number, your card number. You know, somebody now sends you an email alert or a text message that your account has been compromised, or we're running an update. Please provide us with your BVN, provide us with your credit card number, provide us with your PIN number, or whatever it is. That's phishing. So now phishing can be done on your network and on your servers as well, you know, and maybe they could tell you that they are your company, the company that is managing your network or managing your servers, and you are supposed to give certain information so that they can help to fix the problem or a bug on your network. So the whole idea of phishing is trying to get you to provide information, sensitive information. Then we also have rootkits. All right. Now, usually it's installed on a compromised machine or system, and once it's installed, what it does is that it hides the instruction and provides privileged access to the threat actor, you know, like a backdoor, some sort of. So the threat actor installs, and then something in your system, maybe your network or your server or your laptop, and then it gains an access when the system is less busy or is idle. So it gains backdoor access and then carries out whatever malicious action done. So usually rootkits are targeted towards operating systems. Okay, they're usually targeted towards operating systems. Now the next one is the spyware. The spyware is used to gather information about a user and send the information entirely without the user's consent, like the word spy. All right, so it gathers information maybe on your network, the kind of users that are on your network, their usernames, their passwords, maybe their email addresses, their passwords, and then maybe it gathers the kind of devices. Are they mobile devices? Are they end devices? It gathers the operating systems, what kind of operating systems they have. Are they licensed? Are they cracked versions? Do they have antiviruses or not? And then what is the topology of your network? I mean, things like that. How frequent updates carried out? So it carries a lot of information, and then begins to send this information without your knowledge. And sometimes if it is targeted towards a system, it begins to check whether there are bank details, whether there are passwords stored on a particular file. You know, sometimes it can even be like a Trojan or an hardware, or maybe like a pop-up, you know, to gather that. Then we have the hardware. Now, the hardware, what it does is that it usually displays these annoying pop-ups, you know, especially when you're on the internet. And it does that to generate revenue to whoever that designed it. So the malware may analyze the user threats by tracking the website that you have visited, and it can send pop-ups or advertising pertinent sites. Now, these are some of the behaviors of the malwares. Computers that are usually infected, these are the symptoms they show. Sometimes the appearance of storage files and programs on your desktop icons. Sometimes it shows this. Sometimes antiviruses or firewall programs are turning off or reconfiguring its settings. In some cases, computer screens is just going to be freezing, or your system would be crashing. You know, in other cases, emails are spontaneously being sent without your knowledge. You know, you just check your mails and you see like 50 mails have been sent, or 1,000, you know, to your contact list. You know, in other cases, files would be modified or deleted. You know, some other cases, you just see the high increase in your CPU usage or your memory usage of your server or your system. Sometimes you have problems connecting to the network, and you know, your computers become slow, your web browser drops in speed and stuff like that. Or sometimes you see unknown processes running at the background when you check in your task manager. You know, so unknown TCP or UDP ports begin to open, and connections are made to hosts on the internet without your action. Or sometimes you just notice your system is behaving strange, your computer is behaving strange. All right, but you should note, like it's written here, malware behavior is not limited to the above list, meaning that there are other symptoms that are bound to happen. These are just but the common ones that we know. Okay. Now, there are some types of network attacks. Malware is a means to get the payload delivered. So it can use a ransomware to deliver the payload. It can use a Trojan to deliver the payload. It can use the virus. It can use a worm. It can use the spyware. It can use any of those tools to deliver the payload. But when the payload is actually delivered and installed, it can be used to cause a variety of network-related attacks. All right, they are categorized into reconnaissance attack, or access attack, or denial of service attack. All right. Now, what do they mean? Okay, reconnaissance is basically information gathering, and the threat actor uses it to attack, to do unauthorized discovery. All right, get system mapping, system services, or get vulnerabilities. So generally, this type of attack is basically to gather information from you, or from your network, or from your system. Okay, so usually sometimes once it gathers this, the next thing is to carry out a denial of service attack. So it has already gotten the information that it needs. All right. So there are certain techniques that are used by these threat actors to do this reconnaissance attack. One is to perform an information query of a target. Okay. Now, what this means is that the threat actor will be looking for initial information about its own target, and various tools can be used, to get this information, such as Google search, or it will check the organization's website, or it will do WHOIS. Once you go to WHOIS, you're trying to get the IP address of your target, and the email addresses of the managers and stuff like that. Now, another technique, because this first one is just information gathering. All right. Another technique is to initiate a sweep of the target. Okay. To initiate a sweep for the target. So the information query usually reveals the target network address. So the threat actor can now initiate a ping sweep to determine which IP addresses are active. All right. So the next one is to initiate a port scan. Remember, the idea of this port scan is to get the free ports, or get the IP addresses that are used or that are free. And usually they use tools like Nmap, Superscam, Angry IP Scanner, and things like that. All right. Then another technique they use is to run the vulnerability scanners. This is to query the identified ports to determine the type and versions of the applications and operating system that is running on the host. So example of tools to include the NIPA and things like that. So the whole idea is to check the vulnerability by scanning. All right. Remember, all these techniques that we're discussing is basically to gather information. All right, because that's what reconnaissance attack is all about. All right. Now, internet queries can be done in order to get information that is being required. Okay. Sometimes when you perform port scan, you get the ports that are open. It will tell you which ones are open, and it will tell you the service that is being running on those open ones. All right. Now, the next one from resonance attack, the next one is the access attack. Access attack exploits known vulnerabilities, meaning that you have already known the vulnerability by gathering the information using resonance. So known vulnerabilities in authentication service, FTP service, and web service to gain to try into web accounts, confidential database, and other sensitive information. All right. So this one goes for password and spoofing. Now, in password is basically to identify and get the variety of password cracking tools to crack the passwords of the server or of the network. Spoofing attack, the threat actor actually devise attempts in order to pose as another device, So spoofing is like trying to claim to be who you are not. So, and they do that by gaining access to IP addresses or MAC addresses. So do that by IP spoofing or MAC spoofing or DHCP spoofing. Right. So that is that. Now, man in the middle is just another example of access attack. Sorry, we have trust exploitation is an example of access attack. We have port redirection is another example. Then we have man in the middle is another example. We have talked about man in the middle. You know, that is between the threat actor stays between the server and the client as it goes. We have the buffer flow. It's another example, you know, of that. Then the third type of the common network attack is the social engineering. The social engineering is an access attack that attempts to manipulate individuals into performing actions or divulging information into confidential information, divulging confidential information. All right, so you give out information that you are very confidential without you knowing. So social engineering actually is a technique that they are used to perform in person or via a telephone or via the internet. All right, so what they do is that they do pretexting. Pretexting is like a threat actor pretends to need personal information or financial data to confirm the identity of the recipient. They can claim that they work for a bank or they work for a telecom company or whatever it is. All right, so to get their information. Then phishing is where the threat actor sends fraudulent emails, which is disguised as being from a legitimate trusted source to trick the recipient into installing the malware on their device or share personal financial information. All right. The third one is spear phishing. Now, in this case, the threat actor actually creates a targeted phishing attack tailored for a specific individual or organization. And then we have the spam, which is known as the junk mails. And usually these ones are unsolicited emails. You don't need them. You didn't solicit for them, but they keep coming. Some of them are very harmful. Okay. Then there's another one called the something for something, all right, or quid pro quo. And that is sometimes used when a threat actor requests some information from you in exchange for a gift or something else, all right? Then another social engineering technique is baiting, where a threat actor leaves a malware-infected flash drive in a public location, and somebody just picks it and finds it. Say, okay, let me find out what this contains. So the moment you insert it into your drive, your system, then boom, it begins to. So it baits you into using that. And usually they target people that work in certain corporations, so they will drop it where they think you will see it or whatever. Now, impersonation is another technique of social engineering. And what they do is a threat actor pretends to be someone else in order to gain trust of a victim. And so he pretends to be who he's not. Then tailgating is where a threat actor quickly follows an authorized person to secure location to gain access into a secure area. So maybe an authorized person uses his key card to swipe and opens the door. So just before the door closes, the threat actor tailgate and just quickly goes into the area since he doesn't have the card. Then we have shoulder surfing. This is where the threat actor inconspicuously looks over someone's shoulder to steal their password. Maybe the person is typing it on his phone or is typing it on his laptop or stuff like that. So the threat actor now peeps and in order to gain information. And then dumpster driving is where the threat actor rummages through trash bins to discover confidential information. So, social engineering toolkits was designed to help white hat hackers. Remember, the white hat hackers are guys that are good. They are hackers, but they are good in order to help your network. and other network security professionals to create social engineering attacks to test their own networks. So enterprise must educate their users about the risk of social engineering and develop strategies to validate identities over the phone or email or even in person. All right, so cybersecurity is as strong as its weakest link. All right, so the weakest link in cybersecurity can be the personnel within the organization, and social engineering is a major security threat when it comes to that. So one of the most effective security measures that an organization can take is to train its personnel to create a security aware culture. All right, security aware culture. All right, so let's look at denial of service. Now, denial of service, like we said, actually is created to interrupt network service. All right, to interrupt network service to users or devices or even applications. And the two types are the overwhelming quantity of traffic or maliciously formatted packets. All right, so the one overwhelming quantity of traffic actually sends enormous traffic or data network host or application to that host so that they cannot handle. All right, so usually they use so many other hosts in order to do that. So denial of service and distributed denial of service. So the second one is the threat actor sends maliciously formatted packets to a host or application and the receiver is unable to handle it. Now, in whichever case, whether A or B, the whole idea is to deny access to the service. Okay, there is a service that is being rendered on the network, so the whole idea is to deny access to this particular service. Now, some of the components that they use in denial of service is like the zombies. Zombies are like a group of compromised hosts. So these hosts do not know that they are being used. All right, they don't know that they are being compromised in order to send. So they put all these zombies or these compromised hosts together, and then they, like you see here, all these hosts are now agents or zombies. They now at a particular time T will be targeted to send a particular traffic to a particular server to deny access. All right, so this deny access to this server. Then we have bots. Bots are malwares that are usually designed to infect a host and communicate with the handler system. Then we have botnets. It's also a group of zombies that have been infected using the self-propagating software, malware, and are controlled by handlers. Now, what are handlers? Handlers are master command and controlled server controlling groups of zombies. All right, so you see we have the attackers will build handlers. So each of these handlers will be the ones to coordinate all these zombies. So we have bot masters. They enables unauthorized file transfer service on end devices. Now, the threat actor uses the buffer overflow denial of service attack to find a system memory related flaw or problem on a server, in order to exploit it. So an example is when you send what they call a ping of death, where you send a ping that consistently flows. You know, you are sending it to a particular machine. You know, a ping is to test the availability of an end device on a network or reachability. So when you are sending millions of these pings steadily, consistently, and you're sending it from multiple devices, you know, that's the ping of death. Okay. Now, we've talked about denial of service, buffer overflows. Now, evasion. Evasion is a method that is used by threat actors, and it includes encryption and tunneling, resource exhaustion, and then traffic fragmentation. Now, what do they mean? Encryption and tunneling is usually a technique that uses tunneling to hide or to encrypt or to scramble malware files. So it makes it difficult for many security detection techniques to detect the malware. All right. So tunneling can mean hiding stolen data inside a legitimate packet. All right. So that's the idea. Now, resource exhaustion is a technique that makes the target host too busy to properly use security detection techniques. And then traffic fragmentation is a technique that splits a malicious payload into smaller packets so that they can pass through network security detection segments. Okay. Now, we also have another method of evasion as the protocol level misinterpretation, the traffic substitution, and then the traffic insertion. Okay. Now, the protocol level misinterpretation is usually the technique that occurs when the network defenses do not properly handle features of the PDU like checksums and the TTL values, right? Now, traffic substitution is also a technique that the threat actor attempts to trick the IPS by obscuring the data in the payload. And this is done by encoding it in different formats. Then traffic insertion is like similar to traffic substitution, but the threat actor in this case insert extra bytes of data in a malicious sequence of data. All right, so that happens in like transport layer, since they have different segments in the data. Okay, then pivoting is a technique assumes the threat actor has compromised an inside host and wants to expand their access further into the compromised network. All right, so an example is a threat actor who gained access to administrator password on a compromised host and attempting to log in to another host using the same credential. So that one is pivoting. Now, rootkit, as we talked earlier on, is a complex attack tool by experienced threat actor and is integrated to the lower levels of operating system. All right, so it's targeted at operating systems. Then proxies is when network traffic can be redirected through intermediary system in order to hide the ultimate destination for stolen data. Now, what does Network Monitoring Module 15 has to say? There are certain tools that can be used in order to monitor the network. So to mitigate threats All networks must be secured and protected. So network requires a security infrastructure consisting of firewalls, consisting of intrusion detection system, IDS, also intrusion prevention system, IPS, and sometimes endpoint security softwares. All right, so you need this in your network in order to be secure. Now, these methods and technologies are used to introduce automated monitoring, creating security alerts, and automatically blocking offensive devices. So for large networks, an extra layer of protection is actually needed. So devices such as firewalls and IPS operate based on pre-configured rules and monitor traffic and compare it against the configured rules. So if there is a match, the traffic is handled according to the rule. All right, like what we talked about access list the other day. So an important part of the cybersecurity analyst is to review all alerts generated by network devices and to determine the validity of the alert. Now, the day-to-day operations of a network consist of traffic flow, bandwidth usage, and resource access. So these patterns identify normal network behaviors. So to determine normal network behavior, the network monitoring must be implemented. And you use tools such as intrusion detection system, packet analyzers, simple network management protocols, NetFlows, and others. You need all these tools on your network. All right. So there are two common methods used to capture traffic and send it to network monitoring tools. The first one is network taps. Sometimes they are known as the test access points, taps, okay? Taps, test access points or network taps. The second one is traffic mirroring using switch port analyzers, all right? Traffic mirroring. Now, network taps, they are passive devices, which means that they do not change the content. They do not alter the traffic. They do not act on the traffic. All right, they're like only listening devices. All right, so they are passive device implemented in line between a device of interest and the network. In this case, look at it here. Okay, so a tap forwards all traffic, including physical layer errors, to analyze device, okay, while allowing the traffic to reach its intended destination. So this is like the monitoring tool. So this router is connected to this firewall, all right, but there is a tap in between. So what the tap does is that it collects all traffic coming from the router and from the firewall, and then it sends it to a monitoring device that does the analysis. All right, both transmitting and receiving. Then the next tool is the traffic mirroring and span. Capturing of data for network monitoring requires all traffic to be captured, whether the ingress traffic, which is the traffic that enters into the switch, or the egress traffic, that's the traffic that leaves the switch, okay? Now, special techniques such as mirroring must be employed to bypass network segmentation imposed by network switches. So port mirroring enables the switch to copy frames that are received on one or more ports to a switch port analyzer. Okay, so that's another tool. The association between source port and destination port is the span. So we have the switch here is the monitoring server, and all traffic ingress going into this, the traffic going out. So it picks this and sends to the management device, right? Now, common tools that are used for network security monitoring include the network protocol analyzer, such as Wireshark and TCP dump. So to be a very good network administrator or cybersecurity expert, you need to learn how to use Wireshark and TCP dump. You also need to learn how to use the NetFlow software, right? And then the security information and event management system. You need that too. All right, so you need the Wiresharks, which are protocol analyzers. All right, you need the NetFlow, which manages your flow traffic, and you need your SIEM, which is security information and event management. So it is common for security analysts to rely on log files and SMTP for network behavior discovery. It's normal. But you need protocol analyzers. Like in this case, this is a Wireshark. So the traffic that is passing, so you see, after picking this, it will give you the details to be able to analyze. All right, so you need that. So frames captured by Wiresharks are saved in a pcap file that contains information regarding the frame. So interface, packet length, timestamp, and all binary files sent across the network. So Wireshark can open files containing captured traffic from other softwares such as TCP dump utility. So for Microsoft Windows, WinDump, instead of TCP dump is more of Linux. WinDump is for like Windows. Help you too. Now, NetFlow is actually a Cisco technology tool that provides statistics on packets through your Cisco router and multi-layer switch. So it's standard for collecting IP operational data. So NetFlow can be used for network and security monitoring, network planning, and traffic analysis. And so it provides a complete audit trail of the basic information about every IP flow forwarded on a device. So although NetFlow stores flow information in a local cache on the device, it should always be configured to forward data to a collector. Okay. The NetFlow can monitor application connections by tracking bytes and packet counts for individual application flow. So you have your router here, you configure your NetFlow here, so all traffic going out or coming in, the NetFlow will capture it and then send it to the collector. All right, which is the device that does that. So it pushes the statistics over to the external server called the NetFlow collector. So Cisco Stealthworth collects NetFlow statistics to perform advanced functions to include flow stitching, flow duplication, and then NAT stitching. All right. Now, we are talking about network monitoring tools. We talked about NetFlow, talked about TCP dump, right? Or talked about Wiresharks. Now, let's talk about SIEM. SIEM is actually Security Information Event Management. And what it does is that it keeps this keeps track of all events that happens on your system, all right, and then analyzes it. So it does forensic analysis. That means it searches logs and event records from source and provides complete information for forensic analysis. It does correlation, and what that means is that it examines the log and events from different systems and applications, you know, speeding detection and reaction of analysis. So you see, there's a lot of examination that you need to be doing based on the data that has been captured. So Wireshark will capture your data for you. TCP dump will capture the data for you. NetFlow will capture the data for you. Even SIEM will capture the data. So all of them will do data capture, all right, of traffic, help to analyze it, but you are the one to determine how. All right, so SIEM also does aggregation, and what it does is that it reduces the volume of event data by consolidating duplicate event logs, records. And then finally, it does reporting and presents correlated and aggregated event data in real-time monitoring and long-time summaries. SIEM provides details on the source of suspicious activities to include user information, like your username, password, location, and stuff like that. Device information such as manufacturer, model of the system, the version, and stuff like that, the MAC address, etc. It also posture information such as compliance of the device with security policies, whether it has been updated, whether it's an antivirus or patches and stuff like that. All right, so we have another component that enhances the SIEM, which is the SOAR. SOAR means security orchestration, automation, and response, and it usually enhances SIEM. All right, so it helps security team to investigate security incidents and add enhanced data gathering and a number of functionalities that aid in security incident response. And the solution includes providing case management tools that allow cybersecurity personnel to research and investigate incidents, all right, frequently by gathering threat intelligence into the network security platform. SOAR also use artificial intelligence to detect incidents and aid incident analysis and response. All right, it also automates complex incident response, produces and investigations, procedures and investigations, which are potentially labor-intensive tasks, all right, by the security experts. So it helps to reduce the workload, all right. So it offers dashboards and reports to document incident response to improve security operations center key performance indicators, okay, and helps the organizations. All right, so SIEM systems, an open source product called the Security Onion, includes the ELK suite. Now, this Security Onion, we're going to be looking at it later when we're doing our labs. We're going to be looking at that. Okay, so so this SIEM includes the Security Onion, which includes the ELK suite for its functionality. ELK stands for Elasticsearch Log Stash. Okay, so it's the acronym for Elasticsearch, that's document-oriented full-text search engine, and then Logstash, meaning pipeline processing system that connects inputs to outputs with optional filters in between. And then Kibana. It's a browser-based analytics, all right, and search dashboard for Elasticsearch. All right, so this is like a browser. Now, SolarWinds Security Event Manager and Splunk Enterprise Security are two popular proprietary SIEM systems used in event centers. All right, so in summary, we are able to understand some of the security threat tools that threat actors use. We've heard about the Trojans, the viruses, the spywares, the all those, the ransomware, all those elements or tools, malwares that the threat actors use in order to cause mayhem on the system. And we've also seen some of the tools that white hackers or cybersecurity specialists use in order to manage the network, to identify some of these problems, to include the NetFlow analyzer, to include the TCP dump, to include some of the monitoring tools like SIEM, like SOAR. All right. All these tools are actually like the Wiresharks. They help you to gather data, all right, passing through your system, through your laptop, your routers, your network, your switches, and then you being able to analyze them for use. All right, so that would be the end of today's class. Thank you so much for attending. Well done. I wish you good luck. I'll be sending you the recording later. Thank you.